It's recording now. We are going to start with Katia, and your 2 minutes starts now.
Right, so housing, affordable living are passions of mine. I feel that when you look at Stratford overall, there is, and I'm sure we all know, an affordable housing problem. And when I look at how to approach that, to me there's a bigger issue, and that's affordable living as a whole in Stratford. And then there are a bunch of pieces for me that feed into that. There's transit, where we're locating amenities. The one that pops into my head is the turf field. The turf field is way out on Packham Road. To get there, you've got to drive, or I don't know how, or bike, I guess. So it's overall looking at where we're putting things for everyone to be able to access them equally and in a balanced way. So if my children are playing soccer at Packham Road, chances are I need a car to get out there. If Packham Road, or if the turf is located centrally, I could probably bike with my children, right? And so that we can get there. So it's looking at overall how we're planning and how pieces work together to look at affordable living as a whole picture. And part of that for me is affordable housing. And part of affordable housing is trying to think outside of the box and do some creative stuff when we're building. Are there tax incentives that we can offer developers? Can we get all the stakeholders around the table, contractors, city staff, city councilors, and figure out new ways of serving up some incentives to get developers to be more in the mood to build affordable housing units? Can we look at co-housing? In Toronto, they're trying a pilot program now, which I think is awesome. It's elderly folk with young folk, and they match them, and the young people, I think it's about 4 or 5 hours a week of helping out they have to do in the home. So it's trying to think of ways of not just building affordable housing units, but can we build differently? Can we offer incentives? Can we do something that's outside of the box to help, alleviate this huge burden that's impacting low income, middle income, and single parents?
Thank you.
Housing. Housing is a very important thing in Stratford, and that's something we don't have up. I'm CEO of Families Living in Stratford. We have 13 houses that we take people off the street and give them a roof over their head and a permanent address. We need the city to step up and look at that and look at other people to do that, because the city can't afford to build houses for low income. We need builders to build apartment buildings. Like, it would be perfect that on Oxford Street, because it's close to the malls, that would have been a perfect spot for low income families. Close to everything. And then seniors housing is another big issue with me. We don't have any seniors buildings around Stratford that are available. Like, nursing homes are 6-year waiting list. 6 years. So what I recommend is taking 45 Buckingham and make that a seniors building. And then we could put PSWs in there to help the seniors get along and stay in their houses longer. Because we know that the nursing homes aren't there. We have one nursing home sitting empty, and my goal would be to get them beds back operating in Stratford, because they're in our bed numbers. So 82 beds, I think they were. So that would sure help the city of Stratford to get our housing sort of back in line. Thank you.
Thank you. Good turn.
Yeah, I share Dawn's concern about the seniors, obviously because I am one. But you're perfectly correct. And the baby boomers are going to be getting older and they're living longer, so that is a definite concern for seniors. Accommodations for seniors. A livable wage would be another thing that would also help. Affordable housing, just for some statistics, because I looked up some statistics today, that the city of Stratford owns and manages 663 units throughout Perth and Stratford Housing Corporation. In addition, they work with 371 rent geared income units with non-profit housing providers and cooperatives. And so there's a lot of infrastructure there, but we need more, and there's more on the way. And I believe it's 35 35 units are going to be built at the old Britannia Street there, and with another unit we're going to be built in the future. And the thing is that for this housing situation and affordable housing, we need money. And the money has to come from the province, because Stratford cannot build it on their own. We need funding for that. And that's the reason why the 35 unit and the, I think it's 25, yes, 20 unit buildings are on the way. We're not in bad shape. I mean, yes, we could always, to be perfect, we need a lot more, but we are better than most communities, I can tell you that, for sure. That's it.
Okay.
I'm Steve Cooper. I'm on the board for the YMCA, but I'm also an engineer, and I'm involved with a lot of architects in town, industry, and other builders and developers. In regard to housing, I find a lot of the industry we work with, they're expanding their factories, but they can't find people to work there. And that's a huge issue for them. Part of that is it's not about just having affordable housing in regard to assisted living. It's more about having smaller homes that people can actually afford to buy, and it's their home. And what we find is, like, the large subdivisions, you get bigger lots, bigger houses. That's what developers love to build. But I see a big thing with regard to planning is you need to have more, land within the city that is higher density, restrictions. That it has to be high density. But a lot of people, it's that not in my backyard. They don't want high density housing, but I think it's something the city really needs. The other thing is a lot of the people I work with, there's actually a lot of housing downtown, or a lot of old buildings, but the developers we work for, or even business owners, are finding it so expensive to fix up these buildings downtown. There's asbestos, you can spend $50,000, $100,000 just to get started. There's a lot of those kind of things that people need assistance to be able to keep the downtown core going. We have a great downtown core. Stratford's awesome, but I also see a lot of derelict buildings and a lot of derelict apartments that could be improved if there's funding for that.
Thank you.
I'm Gloria. I'm a local author, and I've owned a small business downtown, and I work at a bank currently. So I've got a lot of different views on things. When it comes to housing, I don't know if it's a matter of more affordable housing. I don't know the percentages and things like that. I know that at the bank I work, I fill out the forms for housing, and some of the people who are having housing don't seem like they should for what's in their bank accounts. So I don't know if there's something that should be done that way, that the people who are in them don't necessarily deserve them when other people do. I don't know. I would like to see some sort of, when a developer develops a whole subdivision, that they have a small apartment building on that as part of the deal to get that property. Then it's just regular housing, not necessarily affordable, but more housing. I think that's where the issue is. We need more of it. People who are working, who can afford a house, can't get one, can't find an apartment. So just finding regular ones, not necessarily affordable, where it's going to take them 2 years to get through the list, just regular housing. That's all I have.
Okay. Go ahead. You're going to pass. Okay.
Hi, my name's Ann. I work as a counselor for my own business, and I do lots of different bits of volunteer work around town. This is not a topic I know in depth from a Stratford perspective, but I do see some high density buildings going up in my neighborhood where the old Avon School was, and they fit into the neighborhood fine, but they're definitely not affordable for lots of people. So I've been wondering in the 5 years I've been here, and in that time, seeing different suburbs come out of nowhere, and those condos go up and that kind of thing. If there can be any
incentive, obviously there's incentive for those kinds of properties. Could there be incentives for developers to build smaller units or more affordable units? And I guess my background is in human rights, so I also come at this, so there is a whole framework for housing as a human right, which I think can really inform discussions and policy and how it's approached, maybe not so much from a developer perspective. That and it intrigues me as well as what I see in other places of housing first policies for people, you know, with lots of other life issues to work out if you don't have a home base, a place to live, a roof over your head, especially in a climate like ours. It's hard to get traction on anything else that needs your attention or that you want to invest in and grow. So housing first seems to make sense to me for people to be able to get out of kind of a vicious cycle of just surviving. So that's kind of what I think of when I think of affordable housing. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Kelly Long, and I do quite a bit of volunteer work here in Stratford. I do sit on the board of directors for the American Center. So that side of things, I do see a huge need, particularly in Stratford for affordable housing, but also being a young professional, I cannot afford to stay in Stratford. So I now need to relocate because those available units just aren't here anymore. So I think if Stratford is kind of after keeping those young professionals in town, housing is something that really needs to be addressed, and soon the competition is just crazy out there, and I think it's important to look at. I don't know what the solution is, but I agree that some incentives would definitely be beneficial, and just to somehow mitigate those big corporations that are making the process very difficult.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy. There's two issues in housing. One is about the subsidized housing and affordable housing for those people living that, and then there's also housing affordability across the spectrum. We have challenges in both. So I'll start with the subsidized housing. I really think the direction we need to take is something like that we're taking in Britannia. We've got 2 buildings. I think we need to do more of that. I think we need to take land that we have. The Cooper site is a great example where you could put senior subsidized housing, much like they've done with Woodland Towers, but then also have, you know, assisted living and then university students as well, all in one building is a great model of mixed housing. Britannia is the same. It's going to be subsidized units plus also at market units. So we're actually doing both. We're actually covering the people that are on our waiting list, and then we're also covering that gap of affordability of those 1 and 2 bedroom units for, let's say, young professionals that are trying to save for the next step to buy a house. So that's that part of it. And we also have a housing first strategy that is rolling out. It's for, I think there's 12 permanent units and 60 satellite, you know, money for it. And I think that to me is, if the province doesn't continue that program in 3 years, we need to find the money to continue it, because housing first is one of the only ways to take people that are chronically homeless and actually give them a chance of becoming stably housed. It works much better than any other model. The other part of it is about density. So the fairgrounds land we owned and we sold, we jacked up the density of it. That is going to drive a lot more smaller houses, a lot more townhouses, and an apartment block. It is, and also now apartments we made, it's no longer a 2-to-1 tax ratio. So they will build apartments or condos for the same tax rate. And that is actually starting to build apartment buildings in Stratford, not just condos. But developers always leave the apartment block to the end. All those subdivisions you see out in the country, they all have an apartment block, they leave it to the end. So we have to come up with an additional incentive to get them to build it at the front end, not at the back end.
Thank you.
My name is Elsa. I think I'm going to pass on this one. I'm not too sure what to say. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know if I had anything to say, but I think I'm going to add that I've seen a lot of subdivisions grow in like the outskirts of Stratford, and to me, in a way that you always question it, and it seemed a little bit silly to me because there wasn't much focus going on in the city for seniors, and especially now that my grandparents are like looking to be in care and homes that need care and 24/7 care and everything, and they're putting being put on waiting lists for like 7 years, which is insane, because then it's like you have to move them to Clinton and Listowel and stuff like that, and or keep them in a hospital, and then they're taking up a bed where someone else could use that and stuff. So I think that the subdivisions that are being, like, all this attention is being focused on bringing more people into Stratford. I think we should really focus on who's already here and who is a citizen here. And, yeah, be making structures like the Cooper site and stuff like that. Like, I'm not really sure where they can put it, but I think that if we focus more on getting people in the city an actual home, especially with homelessness as well, that's a big one. And as far as rent, and yeah, I'm a young entrepreneur, it is really tough to find a spot that you can like live off and afford and stay in Stratford, because it is like a great place to be. But I do think that Airbnb should be allowed, I think, for people to do that in their homes, because of how crazy the price is to like be able to own a property and rent a place and stuff like that. Sorry, I'm speaking quickly because I don't know how much time I have, but yeah, I just think that stuff like Airbnb and everything, it happens because of there's not much money, or there's too much money to be able to live here. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm scattered, but yeah, those are my
Sean?
I don't know, I've heard some great ideas and I like them. My concern is I would like to see more of the downtown, the buildings that sit vacant instead of building new developments. I'd like to see more of the downtown core, those buildings up top that just sit there empty. And I get the hazardous, and it'd be interesting to get some tax breaks or get a contractor there to do it, and maybe have the city work with these people so that some of the codes can be there, but still work for some type of reasonable apartments or cheap housing within the city, right downtown, instead of going out further. That's all I would contribute.
Thank you. Karen?
So, as far as housing goes, right now, I'm kind of hyper-focused on tiny homes and the tiny house movement, and I think that we have space in Stratford where we could probably put a really high density of housing for, like, it's being done in other cities. I think we could probably investigate how they're managing that, and then those people who are able to live in those tiny homes can either rent to own or something like that, and at the same time they're saving money so that they can eventually enter the larger housing market at some point in time. I also like the idea of co-housing, and when we're talking about elderly having to leave their town and move away from their families, I don't, this just popped into my head, but what about having some sort of incentive for people to build a granny flat onto their home so that you can house seniors somewhere safe, at least, where PSWs can come in or something like that. So yeah, I like the idea of co-housing as well. So I guess we need to look at other towns and see how they're doing some of those, or how they're managing some of those solutions.
Okay.
That's it, thanks.
All right, we have 2 minutes. Is there one person that wants to speak again?
We have 1,100 people in town looking for houses today. Okay, there is nowhere to go. You look on Facebook and they're all over. People are getting kicked out of their houses this weekend, nowhere to go. And they want to stay in Stratford. Stratford is a beautiful city. Let's keep the people that we have living here. And the kids, they wonder why the kids don't come back from school. Because where are they going to live? Like $1,500 for a house to rent in town at $15 or $16 an hour? It's not even feasible. It doesn't even work. It doesn't. We need to look at it. Seriously, the city needs to make a plan and go with it and help people. Like, a person called the city hall and they said, well, call a realtor for housing. That's not the way you should do it. There should be somebody at City Hall looking out for the people that need help.
Okay, that's time. Thank you very much. That's the end of the session.
Thank you.